Hi everybody, welcome to Tea with Stacy. And yes, I have moved again. This is actually part of, I think you can, no you can't. Over here on this side is actually where my apothecary is, where I have all my herbs and oils and things, and then all the old books. I know I keep moving around, but it's just the way it is when you are in the process of all the transition. But I kind of like this spot. How about you? Today, what kind of tea am I drinking today? It is one that I've done before, but it's one of my favorites, and I just felt like I needed a favorite today. So it is Lavender Gray from Teaography. And let's see what's inside it, shall we? In it is black tea, orange peel, Dutch lavender, vanilla bean, and bergamot oil. You know, clearly I like bergamot because many of my teas have it in it, don't they? Let's get some poured. Let's see if it's steeped. It has steeped. And this little tea company is based in Taos, New Mexico, which is pretty cool. And I will try to remember to put it down below. I know sometimes I don't do that right away. Later I've got, I've got to put that under there. Got a little bit of allergies bothering me today, but other than that, I'm doing pretty good. How about you? So we were going to talk a little bit about lemongrass today. So I don't have any growing right now. I do have lemon verbena growing, so next week I think we'll talk about lemon verbena. I am in search of getting a couple of lemongrass plants. I think I mentioned that last time. I've had it before, and their roots are intense. So in pots, the shape of the pot that I had, that it's shaped like this, made it nearly impossible to get that root ball out, and it's just so intense I had to take a saw to it. So if you're going to put them in a pot, which I think is fine, you just should make sure you've got a good straight up and down wide mouth pot for them. But they don't do super well in the cold here. So I'm going to experiment. When I eventually do find a plant, I'm going to put it out front, because out front in the desert cottage garden is the hottest area of our garden area. I didn't know what I was looking for. I think I was headed for the lemongrass, but let's have a sip of tea. Oh, it's lovely. So there's not a whole lot of information in my books on lemongrass, just I think 3 or 4 had some references to it, so we're going to read about it, which I think would be interesting. And then I thought I would show you a couple more illustrations in The Wind in the Willows, illustrations by Tasha Tudor. See the little critters all dressed up? They're just so cute. I just adore that. And then I think I showed you, like, I don't want to show you the same ones, right? Oh, come on, where's some other ones? You know, get all prepared, but then I lose stuff. And it's quite an older book, so the pages aren't even like cut with whoops. Well, we'll just do the back one for you. Just the drawing part. Here you go. Here you go. And so I don't know if you can see the edges. Do you see how uneven the edges of the pages are? And that's an example of an older book. They're not cut straight with a machinery. It's done, I don't know how it was done. I believe it was done with machinery, just an old machine. This wasn't hand cut, I don't believe. Oh, and here's when Mole gets upset. Little rat helps him. I adore that. I think that Tasha Tudor had a really funny sense of humor. In fact, I have marked here in the Corgyville Fair, there's a sentence in here I just thought I would share with you because I thought it was pretty entertaining. It's very creative how she would write things. So this is about the fair, and apparently the corgis would race goats. That's what's so far in this little story. And one of the goats that they used to race, her name was Josephine. And it says Josephine was a spirited goat with a mind of her own and a voracious appetite for things that shouldn't be eaten, such as cigars, pillowcases, and flower beds. In fact, greed was her greatest fault. I find that quite humorous because goats do eat just about anything they're not supposed to eat. Remember when I was a kid, my mom had Nubian goats. They had that long ears, they're real pretty. And those goats just got into everything they weren't supposed to. And they used to eat the lilac bushes. And then our goat milk tasted really sour. Anyway, goats are funny that way. They're in a little bit of trouble. Okay, so let's look up some lemongrass. So this tea book has very little to say about lemongrass. It's got one tiny little paragraph. Lemongrass is an aromatic herb that you'll often find in blends. It's used to harmonize the flower since it has a lemony taste and vitamin C that adds a little zest to any blend. And the part used are leaves. That's it for that one. Pretty minor. And then this herb book is a different herb book that I just got. Another new old book. And this one is RD Home Handbooks. And it has a very small section as well. It's a tender perennial grass from the tropics, which is why it has a hard time getting through the winter here. It's densely tufted and fragrant, very long, thin, pointed leaves with prominent mid-veins, greenish flowers with reddish tinge appearing in nodding clusters during the summer. It likes the full sun in the greenhouse. It likes a lot of heat. The minimum temperature of 55 degrees is necessary. And that is why I'm not sure that even out front it would make it, but we'll give it a try. It says to chop tender stalks into salads, infuse leaves as an herbal tea, use oil to clean oily skin, and as a relaxant in bath water, and add to perfumes and soaps. And I find the essential oil so lovely. I use it in a lot of things because it's so lovely. I have it in one of my candles. Okay, and the Earthwise Herbal book, it does have quite a bit to say about it. A lot of it's about internal stuff, so I don't really want to read too much on the internal things. All right, so it is native to India, but widely cultivated in the tropics. It's long been used in Indian cooking and medicine. In the last century, it's been adopted into Western herbalism and aromatherapy. It contains volatile oils, including citral. All grasses contain high amounts of silica, which help the sheaths that keep their upright structure. So lemongrass is used for connective tissue. It also contains highly soluble vitamins A and D, which is interesting because D isn't always easily achieved through food. So let's see. It says it's sour, cooling, and astringent, and it combats heat and tightens tissues of the body. It acts particularly on the connective tissue where structural and immune functions meet. So in the book from Gumbel was the writer from 1993, he calls it the connective tissue oil. It strengthens the elastin fibers in the middle layer of the skin, and this is the layer that's both structural and immune functions, so it's beneficial to weaknesses of the connective tissues of the skin. So that's really fabulous. And then also it has, it talks about internal stuff, which we're not going to talk about, but then it talked about, no, I guess that's all that was in here. It's referred to, what it's used for is gastrointestinal, diarrhea, lumbago, external in coconut oil, rheumatism, neuralgia, sprains, pains, fever, and ringworm. That's interesting. I'd have to look a little bit more up about that. Oh, and also it's useful for sports injuries, sprains, bruises. It's antiseptic, bactericidal, antitoxic, because it stimulates oxidation and catabolism. Don't know what that is. I'll have to look that word up. But that's good to know that it's really good for the skin. And then this one did not have anything in it. That's right. Okay. So that was it. There wasn't a whole lot of information on those books. And of course, you know, you can do all sorts of other research. But it is really commonly used to be, you know, eaten. It's in a lot of food, that's for sure. And it's very tasty. But I like to use the essential oil. That was a funny little noise my computer just made, sorry. I thought I would share with you some of the rocks that I'm working with this week. Look how beautiful that is. It's one of the pieces that I found out. You know, all of these are when I go out into the desert with my husband on New Mexico Drive. I like to wander out there. It's actually not been super easy to do since our Snickers dog died, because he was always a companion with us. So it took us a little while, to be honest, to get back out there, but we have been out a few times and we found some lovely things. And I've just found little pieces of, you know, quartz and rose rocks. And this is actually like, it was broken when I found it. So it's like geode, but it's not a strongly developed geode. But it looks really pretty, and I'm going to be hanging it. I'm going to be working on, this is the rough beginnings of the latest boho desert hanging. And I'll be putting all of these, I hope. I've got to wire these up. I hope I'll be hanging these up on this. And this will be the star of this piece. What do you think? All right, so that's what's going on here. We've got a lot of, you know, construction still going on. I am in the process of, I'm reorganizing just to get through the construction and still make everything that I'm making. So I've kind of moved over here. I've moved my computer system and everything over here in front of the book area, which is actually in our living room, but it's a really good, clean, open space to work in, and I'm packing up the studio of everything that I don't use on an everyday basis so that I can begin to move New Mexico Drive into where the old studio is. So we're starting on that progress while waiting on the construction on the, I'm going to call it the studio cottage. That's, I think, the name of it. And what do you guys think? Do you think that's good? I think it's good. So in the meantime, I'm going to be working right here where everything's still convenient, and we will slowly get all reorganized and back in order. And in the meantime, this works pretty well. So I hope you enjoyed tea with me today, and I think next week we'll talk about lemon verbena. And also there's another plant I'd like to talk about is yarrow. It's a really interesting plant. And I do like to try to focus on what I grow here the most, but you know, I also use essential oils from other plants that I can't grow in this area, so I like to talk about them too. All right, guys, you have a beautiful week out there, and be sure to be gentle with yourself. There's only one you.